If you grew up with younger siblings, you can probably relate that as an older brother, you tend to get overly protective of little sisters. During our childhood, we moved around a lot through the country of Switzerland, so we never stayed in a single place long enough to gather any lasting friends at the time. In situations like that, your siblings become your best friends. We grew up without a television, without internet or video games. This is Swiss farmland we are talking about, so we were very behind with the times. It made us siblings spend a lot of time together, exploring local forests, using our imagination, assigning personalities to figurines we found at thrift stores, or pretending to be cops and robbers, arresting each other and getting into fictional fights. You know, the usual shit you do growing up without video games or television. It's safe to say we're all very close. An innocent relationship between brothers and sister. That strong bond persisted as we grew older, but with growing up, there's the coming of age of sexuality. One thing made me start to grow distant from my little sister, which is my interest in drawn and animated pornography. Reason for that is by the time we finally did acquire access to a computer for schoolwork, even though it needed to be shared, she stumbled upon a folder in which I saved some of the hentai I secretly gathered from the web, and she since labeled me a pervert, a sick individual with sick interests, forever tainting my image as a big brother to the mind of this little girl. As if I was uncovered to be a secret villain all along, unmasked, revealing my true identity as a human being. You see, there's a powerful, lingering social stigma to pornography, especially pornography involving that is essentially cartoon characters. 'Cause of it, most people don't go around sharing with strangers and family what kind of porn they are into. Most would even deny their association as a consumer. But yet, it's a thriving industry with millions of active consumers. Still, it remains a dirty secret. A dirty, little, intimate addiction that needs to be fueled every now and then in the comforts of your own privacy. Inherited from our Christian forefathers, we still label pornography and sexual culture in general as shameful, harmful, and disgraceful. In contrast to that, most people will gladly openly share with random strangers and family members what their occupation is, what it is that they do to earn their rightful place in society, how they bring home the bacon. But what if the former is the same as the latter, meaning the pornography you're interested in happens to be your occupation because you are what many like to classify as a porn artist or hentai artist. Hence I get asked often if I am publicly ashamed of what I draw and if my family knows about it. Like, Shadman, what would your parents think if they knew you were drawing Arya Stark getting raped by a pack of dogs? A common question. The way I see it, I'm just a self-employed artist that draws what he wants, and I happen to be interested in mostly rather lewd and fucked up stuff of which I am not ashamed of. However, in order to save myself from meaningless, lengthy conversations whenever strangers ask me about my job in public, I cut out the latter part with the fucked upness and just classify myself as a run-of-the-mill, self-employed artist. Not because I am ashamed, mind you, but simply because I really don't feel like explaining it into any further detail with random strangers. It would be a waste of time, and I'd like to go on with my day. I even more often than not just claim something more mundane to avoid further questioning, such as a janitor or a construction worker. No offense to janitors and construction workers. It's just to avoid any potential small talk. My hobby and job is not a secret or a double life, just something not necessarily everybody has to know about. But that has more to do with my real life personality as an introvert. As far as my parents go, Naturally, when I was a teenager, my mom found out about some of my more lewd antics online and threatened if I ever do it again, she will throw me out on the streets. Of course, I kept doing it in secret, till I was financially successful enough to live on my own. You see, once the little bird learns to fly and leaves its nest, it doesn't look back, it doesn't go back. It's part of every bird's coming of age to make it out there by themselves, without parents. They adapt or die. It's none of its concern what the parents may think it should do. It finds its own path and doesn't let parental guidance fuck up its life. In other words, why should anybody over the age of 18 be concerned what their parents think about them? You are a grown man or woman, and it's about time you do your own decisions. Whether I stay in school or die in prison, I want it to be my decision. The social stigma doesn't just end in regular society and inner family circles, however. Even entire online art communities will label not safe for work artists as subhuman, perverted porn artists, while they claim the moral high grounds to have never dabbled in explicit artwork at all. For it is below them. In fact, they should be labeled heroes, not to be falling into the temptation of drawing porn. They see the ones that do draw wickedness as money-hungry demons, free of all scruples, trying to get a buck wherever they can by peddling smut, because they just aren't good enough to be clean. Sure, there may be some like that, but just a few dirty drops don't mess up an entire ocean. There are plenty of porn artists I know of that do it because they genuinely have passion for it and really want to do it above all else. Because it's goddamn fun, I tell you. And being clean all the time, well, if you're like me, you'll find that's just so damn boring. It's become a regular occurrence of mine where I meet a fellow content producer, such as YouTubers and artists alike, at a convention or meetup, and we hit it off well. They end up following me on Twitter, but the moment I post something alluding to the fact that I am lewd, they cut off all contacts with me, afraid to be associated with my kind, afraid to be judged by their friends and family. But things aren't always as simple as they seem. For example, a friend of mine who also draws for a living, however very much is against the idea of drawing porn, and even looks down on it. Yes, we still can be friends. He's been employed as an animator for over 20 years. He once classified me as being too afraid to go out of my comfort zone, that I just keep picking low-hanging fruit, cause what I do is easy. Meanwhile, he has been living and working at the same place for 20 years, afraid to branch out, afraid to change the slightest thing out of his comfort zone or style. Still, even in his 30s, visiting his parents every weekend, all the while getting a set salary from his employer just to follow orders. See, in my 5 years of doing this for a living, I've lived in 3 different countries, 5 different places. Hell, in a few weeks I'll be moving from the East Coast to LA by car. All the while experimenting with different art styles without having an education in art, being completely self-employed, building up everything myself. Drawing what I goddamn want because I fucking feel like it, while at the same time not really knowing how to draw at all. Being an unprofessional professional. That is the opposite of comfort. That is uncharted territory. It's the kind of shit that's considered impossible in mainstream society. Just comes to show you how skewed perspectives can be on so-called porn artists from the perspective of an outsider. Unfortunately, even within the porn art community itself, if you want to call it that, there are social stigmas. Different groups and alliances with their own moral high grounds. For example, some dislike when others draw rape, labeling them misogynistic, hateful towards women, Others get mad if they use certain characters that for some reason are more taboo than others. Elitist groups will deem anything which isn't of pristine quality not worthy of being erotic art. Even furry artists get labeled as fur fags by many who draw fetish art themselves. It's really fucking ridiculous. But it is in our nature to wage war. So what can you do? There are so many little groups, individual people with their own set of morals that will want to stigmatize you as being a sellout, a weird, degenerate, autistic retard, or overall bad, horrible person for something you have drawn that they disagree with, without knowing anything or even the smallest little thing about you personally. In the end, everybody wants you to play by the rules. The problem is, it's their rules. So everybody has their own unique set of them, filled with hypocrisy, false pride, and self-appointed morals that they don't need to abide to themselves. Let me tell you something. Their rules, my rules, don't apply to you. The only interests you need to protect are your own. The only needs that you need to serve are your own. The only question you need to answer is, what do I really want? Society does not consist of individuals, but expresses the sum of interrelations, the relations within which these individuals stand. Most artists and their grandmas like to draw cutesy girls. Every Tumblr art blog, every DeviantArt account is full of them. We, quote-unquote porn artists, also draw cute girls. But instead of just one same-faced pin-up after another, we dare to go one step beyond and push the boundaries without censoring ourselves. I don't think there's anything shameful about that. No, that's something to be goddamn proud of. That even in the face of social stigma and vehement adversary, you still manage to be a successful artist in your own way. It's not the easy way, but it's the most fun for devious bastards such as myself. After all, society cares for the individual only so far as he is profitable. So they will have to put up with the even most questionable and stigmatized porn artists as long as they manage to be fruitful. So if you do ever want to get into drawing porn, welcome the judgment of others. Appreciate it as a form of attention. The only justice is to follow the sincere intuition of the soul. Angry or gentle, 'cause anger is just, and pity is just, but judgment is never just. Everyone lies, good guys lose, and love does not conquer all. So if on your personal ride through life you notice that everything is fear, hate, and violence, the best place to stop is at nothing.